Studios.
Welcome back to Laughing in the Dark, the podcast where I hang out in haunted places with comedians. This is another fixture in our Sunday Minisode series where I talk to you about your ghost stories. For this Minisode, I spoke to Christian from Seattle, Washington. Christian told me some stories from increasingly more terrifying experiences he had while living in a home that finally convinced him that they were never quite alone. Here's the call.
Hello?
Hi, is this Christian?
It is.
Hi, Christian. This is Sarah calling from Laughing in the Dark. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Starting my day with your ghost story. So, pretty good feeling.
Awesome. Yeah, I've got a good one from kind of like way back in like 2000, well, not really way back, but 2011-ish. So I'm still sort of a youngster.
Okay.
But
so where are you?
Definitely stuck with me.
Where are you right now?
I'm in Seattle.
Oh, you're in Seattle.
I live here. I live here. I was born and raised in Seattle.
Oh, okay. So does the ghost story take place in Seattle?
It does.
Okay.
It does. I mean, if you're familiar with the area or anybody listening, it took place kind of by Roosevelt, like Roosevelt High School, Roosevelt Park kind of area, Maple Leaf Park.
Okay. Is that right downtown?
No, it's about like 15 minutes away from downtown.
Oh, okay.
Just like 15 minutes on the freeway, give or take, if there's a lot of traffic, which usually there is. There's a ton. Then it's about 45 minutes away from downtown. But anyway, it took place in a neighborhood, pretty big neighborhood.
Okay.
And the house is still there, which is cool. But so I mean, pretty much just kind of like to get it started was just kind of like so we moved into the house in about 2011, like the end of 2010, 2011-ish was like right when we kind of moved in. And it was just because the house is in the family and we were just kind of, we had no money. So it was like, well, we got to move into this house. And like I said, it's been with the family for so long. So it's just kind of been known to be like the spookier house in the family. So right off the bat, I wasn't excited to move in, but we definitely needed it. So I moved in with my mom and brother.
Wait. Why was it known to be a spookier house already?
It had been, I mean, it was just an old house. The house itself was, over 100 years old. So just kind of like being in there as a kid, it was always under construction when I was growing up. So it was like every time we would go, it'd be with like my dad and they'd be working on the house, but it was just kind of like a creaky old, just like rundown home that it had gone through its days of, it had been broken into several times and been used as like, under construction. It was used under like a drug house, essentially. People kept breaking in constantly and like 20 people would shack up in there at a time. And it was just kind of like it had a bad history,
Okay. Yeah.
But desperately needing to move into a place, my mom, brother, and I decided to move in there and figured we would make it the best we possibly could. And it was funny because our first week in the house, it had been broken into. Somebody had burglarized our home like our first weekend.
Oh my God. While you guys were there?
Not while we were there. We were actually gone. But when we got back home from the weekend, our stuff was like, nothing was stolen, but a lot of stuff was destroyed,
That's terrible. Yeah.
But, yeah. I mean, it just went with the whole
territory
vibe of the house.
Yeah.
It's like, of course this happened.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
But it's funny because the neighborhood wasn't even like a bad neighborhood. It was just like, so for some reason, it was just like this house was always the house that was, either being broken into or it was used as like a little drug den just because people kept shacking up in there. It was just like, it was wild.
Weird.
Wild
Okay.
place, but I know.
It's weird that it'd be
And
like
so-
localized to that house.
What's that?
I just said it's weird that it would be localized to that house.
Yeah. And like I said, it literally was like the only house on the block. It was on like a main road too, but like the only block or the only house on that block was like that was being burglarized or broken into or had weird things going on to it was that house, like only that house. And it was been going on for years.
Oh my God. So weird. Okay.
Yeah. So we moved in, and so the first things that we kind of started to notice was like, just kind of like the normal weird sounds. And we figured, we kind of played it off as like, it's just an older house, and, things creak and
Right.
doors close, it happens.
Sure.
And so then it just started to become like more and more frequent. Like you would hear it 3 to 4 times a day, and then you would hear it all of a sudden like 10 to 15 times a day. You would hear things moving around or creaking or something going on where nobody else was in the house. And it was kind of a big house. It was a 3-story house, and the top floor and the basement were the 2 places that had most of the, like, I would say, activity, or the most kind of like ghostly feel. You didn't really feel the energy on the middle floor of the house. The middle floor of the house kind of felt like home. But the second you went upstairs or the second you went down into the basement, it just felt like everything was heavy. It felt like the air was like 100 pounds, like hard to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Essentially, so my brother and I stayed upstairs on the top floor, and it was 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. And after like 2 or 3 months in the house, our bathroom door would start like closing. There was no lock on the door, just because it was like one of those old like iron doors or not iron door, but iron door handle. And so there was no lock on it just because of how old it was. And it was always just like easy to push open. But after like 3 months of being in the house, the door would close and then it would be fully locked. There was no way that you could get in there.
Oh.
And we would we would twist the doorknob, and the doorknob would twist, but there was no way to get the door open. And then after like an hour or 2 hours, the door would, eventually just pop open.
Oh, okay. So eventually it would.
Eventually it would, and we figured it was like, well, things get stuck in these old houses. It's not the greatest house. Things do get stuck. But then it started happening like when we would have like family dinners or like house parties or stuff like that. People would go up to use the restroom and it would be fully locked, or they would be in there and then they couldn't get out for like 5 minutes because the door would just be stuck. And so it just kind of like, the door wasn't really what was scaring us, but it kind of took more part of like being upstairs in the uncomfortable environment and having a door that essentially never closed all the way, just all of a sudden be locked.
Mm-hmm.
Like we just kind of thought that was like a little bit weird. And then
it sort of reminds me
situation,
of, well, did you see that show on Netflix, The Haunting of Hill House?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you remember that room with the red door that like wouldn't open?
I do. I remember that.
That's what it kind of reminds me of. Except it would
if I had seen the Hill House when I had lived in this house, I probably would have just immediately have left. I would have just moved out like immediately. Just because now that think about it, now that you remind me of it, it really does feel like that.
It is, and and that's why I asked. Like when you were explaining it, you were like, and then after a couple hours, it actually would open. Because for a second, I was thinking it was like a door that stayed locked for the rest of the time you lived there.
Oh, yeah. No, it would open and close, and it would be locked to its pleasure, essentially. It's just kind of like whenever it wanted to be open or whenever it wanted to close. It just kind of made its own schedule, sort of.
Weird.
We had no say in it. So eventually it was like, well, if people were gonna use it to like shower or anything like that, we always recommended like, well, put like a shoe in front of the door so it doesn't lock you in for like 15 minutes.
Well,
yeah. So
it was a bathroom. That's what the room was.
Staying at the house. What's that?
I'm just trying to visualize this. So it was a bathroom. That's what the door led to.
So it was. So you would go up the flight of stairs, and it was just like a small little hallway, but there was just like 2 bedrooms on each side, and then straight ahead from the stairs was the bathroom, and it was just kind of like a smaller bathroom that just had like it was like the smaller bathroom in the house, and
that's the door that would lock randomly.
Yeah.
Did anyone ever get locked inside?
That was like the only door in the house that would do that. People did get stuck inside a few times, but it was never for like a long time. But the people who did say that they were like kind of like locked in the bathroom would usually like call one of us, like, or something like that. We'd usually get up there and then start messing around with the door, and it would come open. But they would always talk about feeling uncomfortable, and they had no idea the prior history of the house or anything like that.
Yeah.
So like the bathroom was kind of like the beginning of like our notice on things being really weird in the house. And then it was just like, then it moved into like more and more noises, and windows that were just being, my bedroom especially, windows were being like slammed shut when either we would be in my brother's room or we would be downstairs in the living room. You would just hear like one of the windows in my bedroom just slam. And I always had my windows open, just, winter or summer, I always had my windows open. I love the cold air or a breeze in my room. And then all of a sudden it's just like slam. And it took a lot to close these windows. It took a lot of like pulling down and shutting for these windows to actually like go down and close. And these were just being like effortlessly slammed into its slammed into its spot. And it was really startling. And the noise it would make is just extremely loud. And so that was just kind of like when I started to get a little nervous of sleeping in my room. I'm kind of like, I don't really want to sleep in here anymore, but I'll do it. It's whatever, old house, things happen.
Yeah.
And while like the windows were going on, we started getting like TVs that would turn on or off. So we would be in the kitchen, and all of a sudden the living room TV would turn on, or the TV upstairs in one of the bedrooms would turn on, and it would be on like max volume. And it would just be like, it was just a real startle. And the one thing is that my mom and my brother, they're not like me. I usually believe and assume right off the bat that it's everything, every noise I hear, it's like, oh, it's ghosts. I'm just, I'm usually spooked by ghosts and stuff like that. And so my mom and brother, they just didn't believe, they didn't ever think that ghosts or anything like that were real or anything. And so one weekend, my brother and I were actually out of town. We were staying at my cousin's house, and my mom was at the house by herself. And she said that she was just kind of laying in bed. It was around like 9 o'clock or so at night. And she heard the door open. So we had like a door that went from our kitchen to our basement. And so she heard the basement door open and people walking around in the middle floor, and then 3 steps up the stairs, and that was it. The second she heard the 3 steps up the stairs, that was all the noise she heard. And she opened up the door, and every light on the house was off, and it was just the way that she had left it, but the door was open. The door to the basement was open. So she got scared. She thought that somebody was in the house. So she called one of us and was like, oh, did you guys just get home? Or or any of you guys home? We're like, no, we're out of town. We're in Auburn, and we're here. We're spending the night at our cousin Rex's house. And then she started to get real scared. She thought it was like a home invasion type thing. But then she thought like the weird thing was is that she only heard 3 steps up the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 1, 2, 3, and the stairs were right outside of her bedroom.
Oof.
So she opened the door and nothing was there. And so that was kind of like when she started to get a little more nervous as to being alone in the house. And the 3 steps on the stairs would become like a huge part of like this house. It was like every time somebody would be sleeping, you would hear the stairs, 1, 2, 3, or you would hear it going up or you'd hear it going down. But it would always only be 3 steps up, 3 steps down, and that was all you heard.
Weird.
It'd be when you're at home by yourself, or it'd be when we would all kind of be in different parts of the house. You would hear like somebody going up the stairs, and then it would just stop. And like the more frightening part about it was like you just never heard anything else after that. It was just like boom, boom, boom. And these stairs creaked a lot. They're old, like kind of wood. They were just terrible stairs, and they made a lot of noise.
Yeah.
And like the noise of that, just the noise of that, like creeping up to the upstairs bedrooms was enough to like kind of drive me nuts. It was like, it was like freaking me out big time.
Yeah. Did it sound like they were coming to the top of the stairs, or was it kind of like in the middle of, like just someone was there?
Like it sounded like in the middle of the stairs.
Mm-hmm,
so it sounded like, and it's kind of like when you get familiar with a house and you get familiar with like how things sound after like normally going up and down the stairs every day. We kind of knew which each one of the stairs was sort of sounding like when you would step on it.
Yeah.
And it was always like the middle 3 or the first 3 on the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And that was about all that it was. And it was just kind of like when I would hear the middle ones on the stairs and I'd be in my room, it'd make me extremely like uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It made me like, I'd be starting to sweat. I just, my breathing would be all messed up. I'd just be like, oh my goodness, I need to get out of here, but there's something on those stairs.
Yeah.
So
it's that feeling of I have to get out of here, but if I get out of here, I'll be right where the thing is.
Is that I have to go like right through it.
Right.
Which is something I didn't want to do. I'm like, I'm just going to sit here and avoid it and like wait it out and just kind of like sit in bed and wait for whatever's going on to like disappear.
Kind of a helpless feeling.
Yeah. So we stayed there during the winter, and a lot of that was going on during the winter time. Then came the summer, and this was kind of like when we really started to feel like unease and uncomfortable. And it was like summer of 2011 was kind of like it was kind of a hot summer, and the house was made out of bricks. So it just like collect heat like crazy. Like the first few days of summer in like June, kind of closer to my birthday, the house was like excruciatingly hot. Every floor you were on, it would just feel, the inside was like 80 degrees, 90 degrees. Everywhere you went, it was just so hot. And then, it'd be hot. And then at nighttime, all that heat would kind of stay in there. But then all of a sudden, you'd be going in the hallway and you'd be going to the kitchen and it would be like freezing cold.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like no AC, no nothing, and no windows open. We're even thinking about bringing a breeze into the house. But like in random places in the house was just like major pockets of super cold air. And I always, knew that like the whole ghost thing is like they give that energy off of like cold air and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, it was like intense cold air. And, it give you the goosebumps, freak you out a little bit. Then it started to freak my mom out. Then it started to freak my brother out. And then we started talking like, this house has got something to it.
Mm-hmm.
So finally,
it
my
wasn't
mom
even
reaches
like
out.
kind of nice though when it was super hot to just go into the kitchen and have it be ice cold.
You know, in a sense, yeah. Like,
but it was
you know,
just creepy.
It's good to have a pocket of cold air.
Yeah.
But it's like, in this place, it's not natural to have a pocket of cold air.
Right.
Especially
I know.
if one little hallway is extremely cold and then you walk 2 feet out of it and it's 90 degrees again.
Yeah.
It was like, oh boy.
I know, but I mean, and it would be
wrong.
creepy for sure. But there's this part of me that thinks that it'd be like, oh, I better get down to the kitchen. It's really hot up here. You know? I don't know. Like that's my first.
I got to find that pocket. Find that pocket of cold air.
Seriously, because I've always lived in apartments that don't have AC. So then you can't like bake or make anything on the stove in the summertime, you know? And all I was thinking was like, well, yeah, but you could bake year round. Like, I mean, I don't know. It sounds creepy, but at the same time, like silver linings.
Exactly. There's a silver lining to it being so spooky, and that was like, oh, nice, a little bit of cold air. Then,
yeah.
Like a second later, you'd be walking right back into the heat, and you're just kind of like, oh, well, that's not normal.
Right.
And you go back, and it's gone, you know, and you're like, oh,
yeah.
That's, you know, that's definitely not good.
Yeah.
So we started. That was like all through the summer. And then, like, the TVs turning on and off were just, like, becoming more and more frequent. The stares were becoming more frequent. So then we talked to my mom, and we told her to talk to my grandmother because she actually owned the house. It was my grandmother on my dad's side of the family.
Mm-hmm.
And so she finally reaches out and is like, you know, all of this stuff is happening in this house. I don't understand it. I'm freaking out. And, you know, she was like, we can't sleep. Things are weird. It's uncomfortable. I just need to figure out what's going on. And eventually we got the full story of the house on how my grandma actually bought the place.
Oh, no.
And so when we found out the story of the house, so pretty much what happened was, like, in the 90s, there was about 3 people living in the house. And there's one extremely old lady that lived there, and one person in the basement that was about probably around in his 40s or so, and then the lady's husband who lived, they both lived on the top floor. And
was the 40-year-old like related to them, or was it just like a roommate situation?
We don't know. I mean, because the house was like a separate unit back then. That's why there was like a door to the kitchen, to the basement, because it was like a separate unit house. And so we don't know if the person was like related to him or if it was just kind of like a random roommate that was just living in the bottom of the house before it got turned into one house, you know?
Yeah.
And so the old lady on the top floor eventually got like super, super sick and was just kind of like slowly creeping towards her death in the house. And like they would never take her anywhere to get taken care of. And so eventually she died in the house in the upstairs bedroom, which actually turned out to be my bedroom.
Oh no.
And so that, you know, when I found that out, I had lost my mind. But then we found out about the basement. And so the person in the basement actually hung themselves in their closet.
Ooh.
And so somebody had died in the upstairs and somebody had killed themselves down in the basement. And that is how my grandma was able to get the house for so cheap. And she bought the house off of the original owner. And he had told her everything, but she didn't really say anything to anybody else. And
was the original
the husband who lived there was the husband who lived there with the wife. His name was Melvin, and she passed away, and then she found the house for sale. She bought the house, And then, so then she moved in, my aunt and all that. And then they were only in there for like a month or 2 months in like a halfway position while they were moving kind of further down south. They just kind of stayed there for a month or so. So that we didn't know anything that was like, we didn't know of anything that was super spooky as far as ghost related. We just kind of knew that all of a sudden after they moved out, it turned into like always being a construction site, and then people always going in there, breaking in, and then making it a drug den. That's all we knew about it. We didn't know anybody died in the house.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if there were any like overdoses in there too.
That, you know, the more I think about it, the more I question it as far as like, is there more people than two confirmed dead in the house? You know, like we don't know anything else of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the house is no longer under our family name. So we're like, it's no longer in our family. So it's just kind of like, we forgot about it. But the more I think about it, the more I wonder, like when it was a big drug den, how many people could have possibly died in the house. And,
right.
You know, we just didn't even know.
Yeah.
And so about like a month and a half after we had heard like the original story and how it happened, we were already kind of like getting ready to like pack up and leave and go somewhere else. And, you know, just kind of like, we were looking for new houses essentially. And the worst night I had ever had was, so one night I go to bed and it was a school night, so I had to be up early in the morning, but I could never sleep with my TV off. I always had to like have the TV on in the background to kind of like distract me from whatever was going on so I could fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And so I fell asleep with the TV on, and then all of a sudden, like probably like 2 hours after I fell asleep, I woke up and my TV was off. And like right away with the TV being off, I started to freak out because I know nobody came into my room and turned it off. And I know I didn't put a timer on the TV. And so I went up to the TV and turned it on. And then I laid back down in bed, and as I was kind of drifting away in sleep, my closet door started to like rattle. And then all of a sudden it rattled open, and the door opened up. And as like I could see the door opening up, the TV turned off. And right when the TV turned off, the closet door slammed. And I immediately jumped out of bed and turned on the light. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, what the hell is going on?
Oh my God. Yeah.
And as soon as I turned on the light, I heard like shuffling in my closet. Like somebody was moving around in my closet. Like sounded like somebody had been caught in my closet and was trying to like find a way out.
Right.
So I heard the shuffling in my closet, and then I heard, you know, big old bang inside of my closet, and it went into kind of like the attic of the house, and I heard the bang in like the closet attic area, which was, you know, like 10 feet away from me. And the second I heard the bang, I got out of bed, I ran out, and I lost it. I freaked out. I ran outside into the street, and I was only wearing boxers.
Uh-huh.
And I was just kind of like, I was so freaked out. I had to go and, so my mom and brother came running out, figuring out what was going on, and I freaked out, told them I wanted to move, told them everything that happened. And as you know, as I was running out of the house, and as they were getting up, they could hear the stairs, like right as soon as I was done, they could hear boom, boom, boom on the stairs. And then once the stairs were done, slam of the door, and that was my upstairs bedroom. And that's what got my brother like straight up out of bed and running down the stairs as well.
Uh-huh.
So it was just kind of like one night it all just kind of collapsed.
Uh-huh.
And we were only, after this incident, we were only in the house for like a few months after that, but I had never went back upstairs. I never went upstairs again after that. And
Where did you
I never
sleep?
went downstairs into the basement. I slept on the couch in the living room.
Yeah.
I slept on the couch in the living room. My brother slept on the other couch.
Wow, you guys both did.
Yeah, we just took the living room over, but I just couldn't go upstairs. I couldn't
Yeah.
do it.
No,
My
I
brother
don't blame
could,
you.
so I told him to go upstairs, and my brother could go up there and grab whatever clothes I needed, but I could not go up there. It was just way too much.
Was there
So
an
eventually we
actual
moved,
entrance to the attic from your closet?
Yeah.
There was.
So it was like you would go into my closet, and it was like a kind of like a longer closet, and then there was just like a cutout hole
Uh-huh.
in the back of the closet, and that went into like the attic.
Mm-hmm. I was
And,
just wondering
we
that
had
because
gone
like
into
the
attic
thumping.
before. Yeah. So we had gone into the attic before to see if there was like any animals that were living in there, or then we had gone in there to kind of just like, we'd gone in there to see if there was any, you know, I don't know. We were kids, so we were going in there to just kind of like, you know, do stupid stuff. So,
Yeah.
you know, hanging out in the attic. But it was always just like, it was an unfinished attic. So it was just like big, dusty, spooky area. So we would always like scare our friends with it. Like, oh, yeah, I bet you won't go in there, and, you know, stuff like that. And so that was like all the significance of the attic. But the second I heard that, you know, loud thump, I was like, oh my goodness. And the shuffling in the closet, you know, it sounds crazy, but it literally sounds like I had caught somebody like that was breaking into the house, like in the closet, and they were stuck in there, and they were trying to find a way out. Because it was like, things in the closet were moving around, things were falling, and it was just like too much to even handle. I had lost it. I had lost my mind. But
and then to hear them go up into the attic, it's like they found, oh, this hole will go up here, you know?
Yeah, it's like, oh, the hole right there, and boom, they're in.
Yeah.
And the thud, and so, you know, and there was nobody in the house, you know.
Did they investigate?
The attic,
oh, they did.
Well, my brother didn't really think I was telling the truth, so he went up and checked the closet, checked the attic, and sure enough, there was nothing in the attic.
Oh,
it was just like, he was, you know, and then once he saw that, he was just kind of like, oh my God.
Yeah.
he was like, okay, maybe he is telling the truth. But then, you know, the slamming of the door and the stairs that woke, like, kind of like got him up and out of bed was just kind of like more to it when he actually looked into the attic and was like, oh, geez, you know, like there's literally nothing here. It's just
right. Because he heard your door slam too. Yeah.
Yep. And so he obviously, like, he knew something was going on, but he didn't believe the part of the attic or like the closet. He was like, there was nobody in the closet. Nothing was in the closet. Nothing was going on. Then he went and checked. And when he was checking, he just kind of like all of a sudden realized, like, okay, he's telling the truth.
How did he realize that?
I have no idea.
Maybe a feeling.
Second he came downstairs, he was like, I'm not sleeping upstairs anymore.
Oh, wow.
Like, I'm staying down here. And so he and I both made the decision to stay downstairs in the living room. Or like, not downstairs, but the middle floor.
Yeah,
the middle floor. So my mom stayed in her room. He and I stayed in the living room, and we were in there for a couple months.
And your mom's room was upstairs?
My mom's room was on the middle floor.
Oh, it was also on the middle floor. Oh, okay.
So it was like kitchen, hallway, small bathroom, my mom's bedroom, and stairs, and then big living room, dining room. So she was like the only bedroom on the middle floor.
So you guys were all in the neutral middle floor zone now.
Yeah, we were all on the neutral middle floor, and we were all kind of staying together, and you would hear the normal, windows or doors or the bathroom door upstairs, especially during like any kind of like family dinner or party. We always hear about the bathroom. And people being locked out of it, or people telling us like, well, somebody locked the door to your bathroom and now you can't get in. It's like, nope. That's not what it is. Just, it's locked. It'll open eventually, but it's locked.
Yeah.
For now you can use the one down here or the one down in the basement.
Occupied.
Choose.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was, it was just kind of like the most, like, I mean, I've always done and been like super interested in like going and seeing like scary things, but it was like the first time that I had ever had to like live with it and constantly live with it. And so it was just kind of like, once we moved out, it kind of brought more interest into me to kind of like be a part of doing these crazy things, like going and seeing scary places or going and doing urban exploring. And that kind of just like kicked off the next level of curiosity for me, is like, can I find somewhere that's scarier and ghostlier than that house? And ever since then, I've been in a few different places, but I've never felt the same kind of energy or the same kind of feeling that I felt being in that house. And it's crazy because I drive by that house almost every single day.
Wow.
And it's just like, I look at it and I'm like, wow, thinking about it. Every day I drive by it, I think about it. So that's kind of like why I when I saw the, tell your ghost story, I was like, well, I might as well, I think about it all the time, think about it every day. I might as well tell somebody. And
that's wild.
It was a crazy situation. The house is still there and the house looks exactly the same. It's like there's been nothing done to it ever since. So I'm just wondering, is there anything still going on in there of who lives there now and if they're going through the same thing? But, I'll never know.
So before I let you go, I think my manager told me, do you have a podcast of your own?
I do. I have a sports music and video games podcast with 3 of my really good friends. We're called the Beefy Boys Bud Club.
Beefy Boys what?
Bud Club. BUD Club. Like
Bud Club.
and buddies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beefy Boys. Is it BOIZ or BOYS?
BOY or BOIS.
Okay. Hey, I was like really close. Thank you so much for your call, Christian. It was great talking to you. Do you have a ghost story that you want to tell us on Laughing in the Dark? Email us at litdarkpodcast@gmail.com or write to us in our Contact Us form on our website, litdarkpodcast.com. We may want to feature you on the show. Thanks so much for listening.
Studios.